Salve to Discipuli, this is Magister Buddy with the Stage 27 lesson on result clauses. As stated in the previous lesson, there are no new forms in Stage 27, and the two new grammatical concepts are very similar to two others that we already know, so it should be a pretty easy stage. This lesson's about result clauses. It is a type of dependent clause. It explains the result of the action or the state of being in the main clause. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but it'll make sense as soon as we look at some examples. It is introduced by some sort of intensifier, something that translates to so great or so many. The clause itself will start with an ut. It'll end with a subjunctive. Since we're going to be using subjunctives, let's review very quickly. So we've got imperfect subjunctives that start with the second principal part, also known as the infinitive, and then you just add your personal endings, mst, mustis, enti. Best way to translate these is while and then was plus the ing form of the verb. Then we have the pluperfect tense. It comes from the third principal part. You just chop off the ending, add an issa plus your personal endings, and the best way to translate the pluperfect is after and then had plus the ed form. All right, so let's look at some examples. Tanta erat multitudo ut totam aulum compleret. The crowd was so great that it filled the whole palace. This is your intensifier that I was talking about. So the intensifier lets you know that you're going to be entering a result clause. The result clause begins with an ut, ends with a subjunctive. Modestus erat adeo pulcher ut paucae puellae ei resistera paterant. So Modestus was so handsome that few girls were able to resist him. Okay, let's do some practice. Copy down these 6 sentences, put brackets around your result clause, underline any modifiers and draw arrows to their antecedents, put parentheses around your prep phrases, mark as many of the other words as you can, and then translate. All right, so our first one here, let's start with the result clause. It starts with the ut, ends with your subjunctive. We've got stultus as a modifier. We know that it's a result clause because of our intensifier here, Tom. Stultus is modifying dominus. Omnes is modifying servi. We've got a linking verb. We've got a nominative subject, another nominative subject, an accusative direct object, and then the verb inside of our result clause. So the master was so stupid that all the slaves were laughing at him. All right, here we have our result clause. Starts with an ut, ends with a subjunctive. We know that it's a result clause because of tantus, our intensifier right here. Centurionem is a genitive. It's modifying usa. We've got a linking verb. We've got a nominative subject, another nominative subject inside of the result clause, and our verb. The uproar was so great that no one heard the centurion's orders. All right, we've got our ut clause here, starts with an ut, ends with a subjunctive. We know that it's a result clause because of our intensifier here. We've got a nominative subject, an accusative direct object, our main verb. We've got another nominative subject here, and the verb inside of our result clause. So Agricola sent so many soldiers that the enemies were fleeing. All right, we've got our ut clause here, starts with an ut, ends with a subjunctive. I'm going to set aside my prep phrase in here. We know that this ut clause is a result clause because of this intensifier. We've got our verb, we've got an accusative direct object, we've got a complementary infinitive, and then the verb in our result clause. So I was so afraid of the centurion that I did not dare to return to camp. All right, we've got an ut clause here, starts with an ut, ends with a subjunctive. We know that it is a result clause because of the intensifier here. We've got an accusative direct object. We've got our main verb. There's no nominative here, but we know that the subject of this is you because of the S. We've got another accusative direct object. We've got another complementary infinitive, and then another verb. This is the verb within the result clause. Again, no nominative, but we know that the subject is you because of this S. All right, so you had so many slaves that you were not able to count them. All right, our last one, we've got an ut clause here. Starts with the ut, ends with a subjunctive. We know that it's a result clause because of our intensifier here. We've got a nominative subject, we've got our verb, we've got accusative direct object, we've got the verb inside of the result clause, no nominative, but we know that the subject is we because the verb ends in mus. So the slave girls were working so diligently that we always would praise them. All right, so remember, result clauses are a type of dependent clause. They explain the result of the action or the state of being in the main clause. There's usually, they are introduced by an intensifier, something such as so great or so many. The clause itself will start with ut and it will end with a subjunctive. Vale to discipuli.